Oh, hi. How you doing? How you doing? We're doing the monthly stream thing. We're doing it. I'm gonna get it pulled up on my phone so I can watch the chat easily. We're doing the thing, and you know, I'm liking it. So, I didn't put out a formal poll. I asked for suggestions. Someone suggested an RPG, but we're not more specifically. Well, I'll silence that. I don't want that. Someone suggested an RPG. I think I made my feelings on RPGs pretty well known. So, but maybe we'll get to one. But I wanted to, it's almost October, but it's not October. But I just, if you're watching this live, you're one of the lovely people who know and have already watched the 5 Reasons Halloween special for this year. And I wanted to get that done. A whole bunch of stuff happened. This is a Patreon stream, so I'm going to explain some Patreon things. If you're watching the archive of this, you probably don't care about this part, but I'm going to say some stuff before I actually start playing a game. But also, apologies if this gets used. If I'm coughing or hacking or clearing my throat or blowing my nose, I am sick, and that is one of the things that happened. So my original plan was to do 2 episodes for September, just regular September episodes. And, you know what? I need to make an adjustment on that screen. Excuse me. That's better. Whoops. That's better. Alright, sorry, I just noticed that while I was doing this here, so. Okay. And make sure that I'm in the frame properly here. That looks good. That looks fine. Alright, so a couple things happened. So my original plan was, I'm going to do Bionic Commando. And then when I'm done with Bionic Commando, the original plan was to do an episode of same name, different game, Gaiden, which would compare the Genesis Mini. I'll start the game. Well, I can talk about this while I play, I guess. So I'm going to start tonight by playing... I was going to start by playing... Parodius. Other regions? I might have to use the... I believe it was Fantastic Journey or Fantastic Parodius is what it was called in Europe, which is what I'm looking for, but I'm not seeing it unless it uses a special chip. Is that possible? It would be under special chip games. Unless it's under something else that I am not thinking of. Parodius. The first Parodius is on here, but I'm not seeing the second one. which seems weird. This is supposed to... Well, whatever. I was going to play the English version, because in PAL territories, the game came out in English, and that's why I didn't just throw my cartridge in, because my cartridge is the Japanese version, but it looks like I'm going to be playing the Japanese version anyways. The reason I'm playing Gokujo Parodius, or at least starting with Gokujo Parodius, is because... this is going to be loud, actually. Let's turn that way down. It's not quite October, not quite Halloween time. I want to play something that's like maybe kind of spooky, though, so I decided that I'm going to start tonight by playing Gokujo Parodius as Kid Dracula, and that's going to sort of get there for us. So anyways, the original plan. The original plan for... also, Kid Dracula's only in the Super Nintendo version of this game, which is why that's the version that I'm playing, instead of the PlayStation or the PSP version. And I did double check to make sure I haven't streamed this before. I've streamed the PlayStation version before in a non-Patreon stream. Yes, I'm going to put all my lives up to max. I'm going to leave the game at the default difficulty: shot, missile, power up, bell power, auto shot on, roulette on, revival. We'll leave revival off. That makes the game a little bit maybe too easy. If I decide I want to clear it later, maybe we'll change. We can go back and change that option. But so, the original plan. For the 5th time, I'm going to start this sentence. The original plan was that I would do Bionic Commando, and then I would do I would do Bionic Commando, and then I would do a same name, different game, Gaiden, that was specifically about the Genesis Classic, the Genesis Mini, and comparing that to the Mister and a real Genesis, and that kind of stuff. I decided not to do that for a couple reasons. One, Bionic Commando took way longer than I originally thought it was going to. Like, way longer. I don't even see what hit me on that, honestly. So, Bionic Commando took way longer than I thought it was going to. And that's my fault. I fully recognize that is my fault. But I'm at the point in my, I guess, YouTube career, for want of a better way of putting it, my online video making career, that I'm not interested in rushing through something just to get another thing out if it means that one of the things is going to be garbage, or both of them are going to be, maybe not bad, but but less good than they could be. So that was part of it. Part of it was also that thing is $90, and it was really hard to justify, spending $90 on on a device that that I don't really need in the strictest sense of the word. I have a Mister. Also, my Mister broke, physically broke. It slid off the shelf. I've maligned the fact that there are no rubber feet on that thing forever and a day, and I kept meaning to do something about that, and it turns out I should have. But my Mister slid off the table, and the mini USB port broke very cleanly, but broke off of the board, so I need to get someone to solder that back on, and I haven't done it yet. And then I thought about, well, I could just compare it to real hardware, but then like a million other people more adept at that kind of stuff have already done that. And it just didn't feel like it was going to be all that valuable for me to weigh in on that. So I thought, you know what, I'll just get a head start on October. Because the other part of the original plan was I will do 4 videos in October. And the plan was always to have one of them to Patreons by the end of September. Because, you know, doing 2 videos in September and then 4 in October, 1 would be very difficult. Just in terms of the workload that I would be taking on in October. But 2, it felt weird to say, you know, you patrons should pay for 4 videos in 1 month and I guess it kind of comes out in the wash. If we're being totally honest, people who are set to pay for a certain number of videos in a month or ooh, that was not what I thought it was. Big yikes. Okay. But those of you who are paying, who don't have a limit set, that just felt weird to be like, pay for 4 videos in 1 month. So 3 and 3, and also, honestly, because some of you have a limit set, and so there's diminishing returns after 2 videos to a certain extent. So that was also part of it. But anyways, like, it really was just like, I want to get a head start. I want to be ahead of the curve. So that was always the plan, and it was just like, you know what, spending the money, buying a Commando took too long, I'm just going to go right to doing the first Halloween video. Then I was like, but I'm still going to do, oh no. Oh, come on. And that turned into, well, I'm also going to do, still going to do 4 videos in October. I'm just going to get the first one done before the end of the month. Okay, great. Well, then, I had to order one of the games for the 4th Halloween. It was going to be the 4th Halloween video. I had a special order. I had to buy it. I had to buy it and get a copy shipped to my home. Well, the copy that I got didn't work. So I had to send it back, and the seller was super cool, so I'm not going to, like, call him out here or whatever. Nonsense. But, be that as it may, I didn't have a game now. So then that turned into, well, do I really want to do whatever? And the big thing, honestly, is that I got sick. Just brings us back to where we started. I got sick, and that really, the video that went up today for patrons should have been done days ago. Should have been done close to a week ago. But I couldn't speak. I could speak, but I couldn't speak without it causing me a great deal of physical pain. I had a really bad sore throat, starting sort of at the end of last week. So basically, by the time that I was able to record voiceovers, it should have just been done. But I couldn't talk, so that messed that up, which then sets back, everything else. And the biggest thing is it's about quality. I don't want... The last Halloween video for this year is going to be a same name, different game on Resident Evil 2. It's going to be gigantic, and yeah, that's about the long and short of it. It's going to be gigantic, and I don't want to kill that video in terms of its quality because I want to squeeze an extra one in October. So basically, your patrons, you're the ones who are going to have access to this until probably very close to the end of October anyway, so yeah, it was going to be... so it's the one that went up today, which was 5 spooky reasons to own a Game Boy. And then it was going to... The next thing was going to be... oh, come on. The next one was going to be the same name, different game Gaiden for Resident Evil Director's Cut, which there are, of which there are, more than a few versions. And like I said, I ordered a copy from someone on eBay. It was just thrashed to the point where it wouldn't boot up. So I took care of it, but then I would have to wait for another copy to arrive, or I would have to use emulation, which I don't love doing, especially because it looks sort of incongruous with whatever other footage I might get. You know what I mean? Like, could have done without that. It looks incongruous with other footage when you use an emulator part of the time and not the rest of the time. And technically, the DualShock version would have been on the PS3, which is technically emulation, but that looks a lot different than your straight up like PSEXE type emulation. So. Okay. Not sure what killed me on that one, but so yeah, I mean, it's just that was a bunch of stuff that came down. So 3 Halloween videos instead of just 2, or instead of 4, but more than just 2, which last year there were only 2, and I don't really remember the specifics of. It's really hard to play a shoot 'em up and talk at the same time. People have mentioned this in the chat before, but yeah, it's shoot through those gems, apparently. I might sneeze. If I do, I will turn away from the microphone. Ugh, that was just me sliding my thumb in the wrong direction, going right into the wall because I thought I was going to sneeze. That was clutch. Very clutch. I promise I'm not this bad at video games. Jeez, anyway. Maybe I am this bad at video games. Who knows? So, yeah, the best laid plans of mice and men, right? So, anyways, yeah, I only did 2 Halloween videos last year. I always like to try to do more for Halloween, so, I actually thought I was going to get sent back to the beginning of the stage on that continue, and I was sort of okay with that. But yeah, and then I thought about like splitting the Resident Evil 2 video into 2 parts. But like, that just feels... yeah, that just doesn't feel good to split the Resident Evil 2 video up into 2 parts, even though it would be very easy to do. Like, I didn't split the Ninja Gaiden one up into 2 parts, so... oh boy. Yeah, I mean, I didn't split Ninja Gaiden into 2 parts. I didn't split Bionic Commando into 2 parts. I didn't, you know, so it would feel weird to split Resident Evil 2 into 2 parts, so I'm not going to do that. So it's going to be 3 videos for Halloween, which is fine. So yeah, it's going to be... it's going to be... the one that the 5 Reasons on the Game Boy, and then it's going to be obscure games on Deep Fear, which I very lightly touched upon in a 5 Reasons video a few years ago, but I really would like to talk about it more. And so we're gonna. And then same in a different game, Resident Evil 2. So. Just missed. Some weapons are very good for general crowd control, and some of those same weapons are not great for bosses that have very specific weak points, like this one. What I should be doing is firing from closer. Forgot that it does that. I knew that it did that. Forgot that it does that. The music in this series is so weird. 'Cause it's basically like, you know, most of it is like old classical rendition, arrangements of old classical music. Can't move faster than it can, apparently. Right. I swear I'm not this bad at video games. There we go. That's better. This is the speed up stage, isn't it? Sure is. could not have been timed worse. You know, one thing you can say about these games is Konami definitely at this time did not take themselves too seriously, and they really committed to the gimmick. Come on. Excuse me. Oh man. So that's the nice thing about some of the homing weapons in these games, is like you don't realize certain parts of these bosses that can or need to be destroyed, and then you're like, oh, I can just blow those arms off and then I don't have to worry about them anymore. But I didn't even think that was a thing I could do. And I'm like pretty familiar with this game, and I've always just gone right after the three cores, the stoplights, because that's what happens when you kill those. I've never like worried about the arms. Morning, Daniel Bryan is approaching. So that's a bonus stage, as you can see. And you only get one shot at it, and obviously I blew it, which sucks. Because you actually get a pretty big bonus if you manage to kill the Moai ship. Part of what I love about the Proteus games is that they often take bosses that were just serious jerks, huge pains in the butt in Gradius games, and make them in, like the covered core, those three things on the right, the one thing on the right, that's a boss from Gradius 2, and it is just, you want to watch some really old videos on this channel, go way back, and you can see that thing kill me about 100 times back in the very first YouTube series I did, which was Shoot 'em Up Training. I played Gradius 2 for the Famicom, and the covered core boss in Gradius 2 for the Famicom is the devil. What a weird boss, huh? Didn't really need that speed up, but I really wanted that roulette to end. So that's what a fully powered Kid Dracula looks like, if you're curious. See, I told you I wasn't that bad at video games. I just... just had to find my groove. Super NES. Not great with this many moving objects on screen at once. Oh, come on. Excuse me. Okay. It's not like her pattern is especially difficult here. I don't really know why I'm sucking so bad. I think that's why I like these games so much, is that, like, really on the standard difficulty, these games tend to be much breezier. He says as he dies again. Much breezier than, actual Gradius games, you know. There we go. Yeah, get out of here, penguins. This is the classical music nightclub where the penguins hang out. Ugh. will continue. I will continue. Ugh. It's in the latter stages where you wish you had put on that auto respawn, thing. Let's damps. You wish you'd put on the respawn immediately thing, but then that just turns into, you just really very much credit feed right through this thing. It's not you're no longer. Life Force in the NES is kind of like that, although I think a lot of other shoot-em-ups, I love the Gradius series and the Parodius series. I would say that Gradius Gaiden might be my favorite shoot-em-up of all time. This one is also pretty high up there, honestly. I like this game a lot. I replay this game more regularly than most other shoot-em-ups, but instantly respawning can, some people would say, like, dying is too punitive in these games. The instant respawn lessens the impact of the extremely punitive death mechanic, because, games like Soldier Blade, which is also one of my favorite shoot-em-ups, or really any of the Compile or Hudson, shoot-em-ups, like, you're insulated to a certain extent, right? Like, sorry, excuse me. You're insulated to a certain extent. You can take a hit. In most Compile shoot-em-ups, taking a hit just downgrades your power. Sometimes it downgrades it, one level, sometimes it downgrades it all the way, and then another shot will kill you. But games like that tend to have mechanics sort of built in. Or even games like Radiant Silvergun, which is a game that I honestly... a game that I love, and I almost have to... I feel like... you can't say the word overrated without somebody taking it the wrong way. Like, I try to use that word as it, by its actual definition, which is that I think the mainstream, the general thought on the thing is that it is better than I think it actually is. It does not mean the thing is bad, just means I don't think the thing is as good as everybody else thinks the thing is. But people will get really bent out of shape if you say, I think Radiant Silvergun is overrated. Because when I say I think Radiant Silvergun is overrated, I'm not saying I think Radiant Silvergun is actually bad and everybody who likes it is an idiot. I'm saying I think everybody acts like it's the best shoot-'em-up ever, or the best vertically scrolling shoot-'em-up ever, or the best shoot-'em-up that Treasure made ever, and I think all of those things are incorrect. That's not to say that I don't like Radiant Silvergun. I love Radiant Silvergun. I just think it's not as good as... I think Ikaruga's better. I'll put it that way. That'll make the whole thing easier. But what Ikaruga and Radiant Silvergun both do really well is... you have all of your power-ups all of the time. So in Ikaruga, you have two different two different polarities, two different shots, which are the same shot. They just affect the opposite colored enemies more than and that was clutch. And in Radiant Silvergun, you have a variety of weapons at your disposal, but you always have them. There is, and I think in a lot of ways that was a subversion. Well, in a lot of ways, in pretty much every way. Unless you go back to really old shoot 'em ups, Xevious and Space Invaders and stuff like that. But that was quite a subversion. To say, no, you don't have to grind for power-ups, you don't have to play perfectly, otherwise you're going to lose your power-ups. No, you just get your power-ups. They are not power-ups, you just get your weapons. And I think that's the genius of Radiant Silvergun. Is like, you just have your guns, and you always have your guns. And I think that's what Radiant Silvergun really does correctly, is you always have your guns. Your Radiant Silver guns, if you will. Like, how am I supposed to deal with that without any weapons? I'm dedicated to this pre-Halloween gimmick, so I'm only using Dracula, Kid Dracula, which is probably a mistake because there are probably characters and ships with better weapon loadouts than Dracula Coon, but that's what I'm talking about. And that's the answer to the question, how am I supposed to deal with that? Which is, have a weapon that shoots in all directions. That is the cheapest thing in these games, and all the Gradius games and most of the Proteus games have them, is they have these sections where enemies don't fly onto the screen, they literally just appear out of nowhere. And it's just like, I don't know, the answer is memorize exactly where they appear and don't be there when they appear, right? That's the only defense. And I think, a really good shoot 'em up should have really minimal reliance on memorization. Which I think probably to some people is some sort of sacrilege, but I think even Gradius Gaiden, which again is a game I love, I think that game is a lot less memorization reliant than a lot of games in the series, because it was made with home consoles specifically in mind. And that's sort of why I think that game is so good, is because it wasn't an arcade port where the point was to take your money. It was made with home consoles in mind from Jump Street, and excuse me. But it has some stuff, and games like Thunder Force 4, like the last stages of Thunder Force 4, which I played through just kind of on my own earlier this year, because I picked up the Sega Ages version for the Switch. Like, the last two, actually the second to last stage is harder than the last stage in that game. And that stage is, there's a bunch of mini bosses, and you basically have to memorize them. And I think a really good shoot 'em up should be something that you can clear relatively easily, but that scoring is the hard part, right? So something like Ikaruga, even, or some of Cave's games, Dangun Fever Run, right? Like Dangun Fever Run is not hard to beat, but if you want to put up a real good score, you know, that's where things get hairy in Dangun Fever Run. Is if you want to put up a really ridiculous score, you gotta have a plan, and I think that encourages learning the game, because you feel good about being able to finish it. You know, you feel good about beating it, but you haven't, just because you beat it, you haven't mastered it. Oh, come on! Really? Oh, put some power-ups here, and then we'll just raise the ground up into you so you can't have them. Which, again, it's that memorization thing. It's remember that happens, and then... you know, again, I think there's going to be, in a lot of action games, shoot 'em ups like this, memorization is unavoidable to a certain extent. There are going to be things that you have to memorize that you won't know are coming. But I think, again, generally, you know, the more reflex-based, and the less like, oh, you didn't know that exact thing was going to happen at that exact moment, so you're just boned, the better, in my opinion. See, but that was my fault for not being properly armed, not wiping out the enemies. You know, that death was fine. Now, once you know, with Kid Dracula, once you've got the needle, you know, in a section like this, things are going to suddenly be a lot easier. Except when random enemies appear literally out of nowhere, and just on top of you and kill you. I think I'm pretty close to the end of this. I kind of want to finish it. Obviously, if I run out of credits, which seems a little unlikely at this point, to be honest. But if that happens, then I'll move on to something else. But now, see, trying to clear out the things that shoot at me, I accidentally killed a thing that would have dropped a pill, or, I mean, did drop a pill, I just couldn't get to it. And then that's a bell instead of a power-up. Of course it is. I live across the street from a fire station, if you just heard that. Oh boy, the dancing lady. So I actually also just played through Gradius 3 earlier this year. And this whole section is Gradius 3. Like the moving sections of, oh, come on. The moving up and down floor and the showgirl who is a walker, 3-legged walker, 6-legged walker in Gradius 3? No, Gradius 2. Sorry, Gradius 2. This all that comes at the very end of the game. And that is very frustrating. But again, it's frustrating here too because that penguin was not going to let me get under that foot. Now it will, because I'll be able to shoot it from here. Excuse me. That left foot does not move. Her right foot, I guess. The foot on my left does not move a great deal, does it? Duh. That was the octopuses, octopi, who are behind these schemes. Can't trust an octopus, apparently. Kaboom. There you go. Go get your Proteus. And we've got some time left. Well, let's see here. Someone recommended or requested that I play an RPG, and since I'm on the Super Nintendo, I guess let's do Final Fantasy III, which I do have a copy of. Yeah, it's just easier to load it up from the SD card in my Super NT than to walk over there and get it. Final Fantasy III. This is a pretty good video game. This is honestly one I've kind of wanted to replay, but it's just, they're so time consuming. If you sink time into getting all the characters and leveling them all up and, you know, getting to the point where you can face Kafka, that's a lot of time. You know, it's just so many games out there. Especially since I never actually finished this one. I played it when it was new, but I never finished it. I finished 2. I finished Mystic Quest. But I never finished this one. I finished 7, didn't finish 8, didn't finish 9, got close to finishing 10. Didn't play 11 because it was an MMO. Didn't play much of 12, didn't play 13, didn't play 14, didn't play 15. I heard 15 was pretty good though, so I don't know, maybe I should? I don't know. 5 I played a little bit. Way after the fact, and I sort of liked it. I like the job switching stuff. That's actually, if I was gonna sink time into a Super NES Final Fantasy at this point, just because I did play a fair amount of this one at the time, I think 5 would be the one. Because 5, yeah, I'm not I never really finished it, and I liked what I have played of it to capture footage for drafts and stuff. And people seem to have fun with it for the 4-job Fiesta thing for charity every year. So I remember seeing this for the first time. I rented this game when it came out. I'd played Final Fantasy II, you know. And seeing this for the first time, it's hard to explain it, because I think by this time I'd played Snatcher, but still, like, seeing this on a cart-based system, there's a sort of, I don't like to say cinematic, because I don't think video games should try to be movies, you know? I don't love that. Every time someone talks about, like, oh man, you know, why aren't games more like this other medium? And I'm like, because they're games, not that other medium. If you want movies, go watch a movie. But I think this does a really good job of sort of setting the story in a way that was not easily done in earlier generations. Just using the Mode 7 effect and the sort of, you know, you see the town in the distance and the opening credits are rolling, and I mean, cinematic is the only way to really put it, but again, I don't want games to be movies, but this very effectively sets a tone and a mood in a way that I think earlier games had a lot of difficulty with, is the best way to put it. And I think this sequence is really one of the great opening sequences in video game history. So here's the part where you mercilessly slaughter a bunch of basically innocent people. I'm gonna say that maybe you guys should have coordinated your attacks a little better if you were hoping to turn back 3 people in Magitech armor. I mean, whatever. You're so overpowered at this point in the game. Well, I do find it interesting that, as is ever the case in these games, all the enemy characters are these sort of very lush animated, not animated, but illustrated very lushly drawn graphics, and you get like squashy little Lego people. I have come to murder your citizens and steal an important artifact from your town. Hope you don't mind. Save, because let's be honest, once I've been playing this for the stream, I'm not going to pick this back up for quite some time. So don't use the Bioblast on the were-rats is the lesson to be gleaned there. Frozen Esper. There it is. You know, I'm gonna be honest, that old man, he doesn't look that old. May as well save, I guess. In case I do decide to pick this up again later. Phoenix. Spelled extremely wrong. But Woolsey had a character limit, I guess. Oh no. Emilio Estevez. Oh boy. So you guys picking up any Nazi imagery here? Any? A little bit, maybe, a little bit. Some Nazi imagery there. like that early in this game they make you realize how awful Kefka is before he does like the really awful thing, which I'm not gonna, you know. The real tragedy here is that it takes a really long time to get to the part where you can suplex a train. It's also very convenient how easily Locke finds her while the guards are like, where could she be? Googles are pretty good. The U.S. commercial for this game is actually one of my favorite old video game commercials, where Mog is holding auditions for enemies, and they keep coming into his office, and he just puts them in the game. He like zaps them into the game. It's pretty good. I don't think you can steal anything very good from... There's Mog. Mog can't dance yet, though. Mog hasn't learned how to dance. Yeah, asked her to do dance. Now Mog can dance. Except I don't have the option to make him dance. Oh wait, there we go. Because it wasn't Mog's turn yet. Alright, well, I think I'm going for about an hour and 45 minutes. Probably a good place to call it. The Mogs helped save Terra. Locke knows the secret way out of the mines. Let's see. So I think that's going to do it. To everybody who hung out and watched live, thanks for hanging out. Everybody who's watching the archive, who's a patron, thanks, of course, for your support, and thanks for watching the archive. And everybody who is watching the archive after it goes public, if you want to watch these live, just $1 per video on Patreon will get you there. So yeah, thanks for hanging out, and see you next month.